Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and good night, wherever you are and however you may be watching. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. And we're back here in the arena looking at another deck tech here. Now, this is my Wolves deck. It's a deck that I've worked on for a little while. It's not exactly perfect, but it definitely works well. The matches that we're going to see here coming up are going to be more duo matches like the last video, but I kind of wanted to dive in and show you guys kind of what this is. We have the bridge buddies, which again gives us access to take those bridges when they're open, just to stop the XP on the opponent's side and get that XP going on our side. We are running two once bitten, which at 50% health turns your the character that has it into a werewolf. I use this both on my troops and on my my buddy or my partner's troops as well, especially if he has a troop or she has a troop and it gets countered by the enemy. Throwing this on here, giving it another full health bar. Basically you get 1.5 health bars, plus the werewolves aren't that bad as far as damage is concerned, so definitely a good thing to use on both your minions and your partner's minions. We have Zhao Long. Many of my decks have Zhao Long. It's just a ridiculous awesome flying minion that I think all decks should have. Stun Lancers, both for their abilities to lock down big, powerful creatures so you can get them killed, or they're also a great target for the once bitten once they get low on life if they're fighting a pack or something like that. Whirly Scrat, utilizing this, again, you can use once bitten on him. He's another tanky type minion, but takes care of those big masses of creatures. For example, the Puff Madness, people using that to get your big guys occupied on something other than the objective. Also taking care of those Scrat hordes and just those groups of mobs pretty easily. I am using Divine Warrior in here. I was disappointed that she went up in mana cost on that one of the last updates, but she's still really good. She starts with that shield. I always make sure when I summon her, I have 7 mana to drop once bitten on her as well. There are very few times that I'll summon her without once bitten on there as well, just because she's pretty good on her own, but being able to, first off, she has the shield, so she gets through some mobs that way. Then once she gets to half health, she turns into a werewolf and becomes another nasty force. So definitely a good combo there. You could, if you don't have the whirly guy or you don't have stun lancers or something like that, you could also put in, if you wanted another target for this and you didn't have all the targets that I have, you could also put in the 3 mana cost, just the warrior. She also works as well. You can get the werewolf off at 5 mana instead of 7, but you also don't have the shield. Now, one thing that some people ask about is why I don't use lone werewolf. Yeah, it comes in with rage. Yes, it's guaranteed to have werewolf, so it's basically this combo right here, this with the werewolf. I have tried lone werewolf. The problem is when you're doing this would be a good solo base card, but if you're in duos, there's very few opportunities that except right off the bat, that there are going to be no other minions on the friendly minions on the battlefield. So definitely something to just keep in mind with lone werewolf. I have Scott, the sensitive savage. Scott is a great card for multiple reasons. He's beefy. He does a lot of damage. At 50%, he does taunt and cry and sit on the floor and just taunts. And other people will beat him down. But what you can do is, if he starts crying and he starts taking too much life, you can werewolf him, or you drop him, and with 7 you werewolf him right off the bat. Therefore, he doesn't sit down and cry and just turns right into a werewolf. It depends on the situation. Sometimes you want that taunt feature on him and then werewolf him afterwards or something like that. But definitely a good combo to utilize Scotty once he hits the 50% threshold. I am using the Spirit Mancer, as you saw with my last video and this video. You will notice I like Spirit. I think it's a great mechanic in this. It definitely makes your guys more tanky. And that's why we're also using Milloween for her spirit ability. So definitely a good thing there. Finally, Howling Moon. Definitely a good card, even if you'll notice in some of these videos, even if I have Navir down through Morelia's ultimate, even with that, once one of your big boys is at 50%, you can cast Howling Moon at no disadvantage to your side, because it's not going to drop your minions any further down than they already are. So definitely use this sparingly. It is a 7-man. It's the high end of this deck, which means you're probably not going to utilize it a whole lot, but it's definitely in there to get 2 werewolves out. So this is the Wolves deck. Let's take a look at 3 matches of duos and see how it performs. All right, so here we go. First match, you'll see we have a nice opening hand, and just as I talked about going over the deck, we do have the 7-mana combo here with Divine Warrior into Lycanthropy, or Once Bitten, or Werewolf, however you want to say it. We also have Spiritmancer, we've got Twirly Twirly, so a lot of good options here. And as you can see, this is where the power of the Spiritmancer comes in. Our opponents, or our partner's putting in some mobs, we've got some dudes in, and that Spiritmancer is just kind of chunking through those small dudes. We even spirited the Puff, so it lasts longer. So this is where Spiritmancer really comes in strong here, where he can just sit back in the backfield, pick off things, and just pump up your team with Spirit, and we can get in there for a couple hundred damage right off the bat in early game. So from here, again, I'm saving up for that 7 mana right now, unless my opponent does something, which they don't. So we've got the Divine Warrior down there with the Werewolf attached. So we'll be able to utilize the Werewolf at the 50%, which should be coming up here. Now, they had a great counter there with the Scrat Horde there and the Succubus. So it didn't do a whole lot, but it almost got his 1 skeleton completely gone there. So that's good. Now, here would be a good opportunity for me to use Howling Moon, but I elected to go with Scotty just because we are carrying that Lycanthropy down. It allowed us to clear some stuff back away from our base a little bit because, again, Scotty's very tanky and does quick and high damage. So definitely an opportunity to use Scotty there, but Howling Moon would also be a good choice. Now, anytime I'm using the hero power here, it depends on the situation. So what I really want to be focusing on is giving minions on the field Spirit. However, seeing that our opponent is a very aggro-based deck with a lot of low-cost minions, they've got elves in there with the frenzy ability, the elves, the energize ability. So also watching our health and making sure I'm using the healing effect of Morelia is also definitely critical here as well. So very situational. I know in some of my other Spirit decks, I'm always just hitting the W every single time, hitting that Spirit on the minions every single time. But there's a lot to be had with Morelia's ability from the skeletons, which I rarely use, to the reducing the mana cost of spells such as the Howling Moon. So she definitely has a lot of utility, which is why I like her in this. Not to mention the ability to have Spirit, and I love Spirit. So she's definitely the master that I'll always use with any deck that I can. There are obviously some decks that I want to utilize, some of the other champions just based on what I'm trying to do. But she is definitely kind of my go-to just because I love the Spirit mechanic. Now, one thing you will notice based on some of my previous videos, this deck is not a fast deck, right? It's a pretty mid-rangey deck, 4 or 5 mana cost creatures, a lot of those, and then we've got the low-cost spells. So games are going to go quite long, and that also depends on what our duo partner is also playing. I haven't really tested this deck too much in solo play. It may get overrun pretty easily in solo play. Right now, in this time, we're playing with the Platinum range, just to kind of give you guys an idea of when I was playing this, playing it in the Platinum range of gameplay. So here I go with the first go of Howling Moon, and I chose to do it there because, we didn't have a whole lot of minions on the board. A lot of them were low health. They did have the spear, the spell slinger guy that's on the surfboard. I can never remember his name. But he was in the middle of the battlefield. He was going to be dropping to very low health anyways because of the amount of range that they had there. So it was a good time to use Howling Moon. It did a little work for us. Obviously, the one of the werewolves just now died, but definitely a good opportunity there to use that because we were in a position where we kind of needed some sort of push back from our end. Since they have a Morelia too, as you can see, they're doing a pretty good job of getting their health back from the damage that we've caused. And again, anytime you have a battlefield where you've got a Morelia or you have two Morelias against you, in team, you always have to be aware that if you slow down at the pressure at any particular point in time, you run the risk of her healing back a lot of your progress and therefore putting you well behind. Now, I'm not running a spirit-based deck, or an essence-based deck, I should say. It is a spirit-based deck, but it's not an essence-based deck. So the having 20 essence and all glowy over there with Morelia, it doesn't really matter in this particular instance. In fact, our opponent may think I have like the super, the big dragon. Nope, we only have the ultimate dragon, so that's absolutely fine. But our partner has gotten some of the surfboard spell slingers up there who are doing some major work here, which gives me the time to hold off and really wait to get the dragon down while they were working with that. Now, in this sort of position where we're about halfway through Mana Frenzy. Our opponents are just slightly behind. The big focus here is making sure we keep that bridge control so they don't take the Mana Frenzy, and also countering our push at the top with the dragon with minions in the bottom that are kind of beefy and tanky. Anytime you utilize the dragon, a lot of people overload the side with the dragon, which definitely works, but if the dragon's relatively slow and can clog up that lane, so if you really push on the opposite lane of the dragon, I feel like it really works out, because then the enemy masters are focused on the push that's moving quicker, just because they're getting in range of the master, and it allows that dragon to get in there when she can without taking extra damage from the master. So there's a win. 6 minutes 36 seconds. Let's take a look at another one. Okay, so here we go. It is going to be Setsu and Morelia on my side. I am playing the Morelia, obviously, against the corgi lady. And Mordor on that side. Now, this match is a little bit quicker than the last one. Our opponent definitely had a little bit different of a deck setup that actually works well with us, since we have the Spirit. We've got the mid-rangey deck. He's got some pretty big guys, as you can see. He's got Kalith out right now. He also has 2 Harbingers coming up right now. So he's got a pretty big in deck. Which obviously takes a lot of the opponent's resources to take care of. I'm very mid-rangey, so if we had went up against 2 super aggro decks that could also handle some of our big guys, we may have been in trouble here, but since we are a spirit-based deck, since we do have our partner's big guys, we can kind of play the mid-range go. He can play the big end that keeps all the beats from everything on him, and we can just keep Spirit going, we can keep Werewolves going, and we can just keep pushing the entire game and just handling what they send here. So we're already relatively, actually it's pretty even on the experience at the top. We've had a pretty even control. In fact, right here, I believe our opponent will take over on the experience side, just because we kind of have to clean stuff up. But with the Harbinger and with the ability of Setsu to actually hit the battlefield, you'll see we'll be able to quickly recover, get those bridges back, and start getting the experience going again. In all honesty, right here, I probably should have used the bridge buddies to stop their experience and then also keep going. But I saw that their Harbinger was at 50% life, which means I probably could have done Howling Moon right there. We did bridge buddies. In fact, I'm not sure why I'm not casting Howling Moon right here. That would be the appropriate play. But there we go. Okay, I was going to say, looks like maybe I was hoping that they would dump us stuff on the battlefield. Definitely probably a misplay there. I probably should have dropped Howling Moon sooner. We may have been able to save the surfboard slinger right there in the middle by dropping it a little bit sooner and getting the werewolves on the battlefield before they loaded up. But a misplay on my part, but it doesn't hurt us too bad there. We do lose a surfboard spell slinger, but as you can see, our werewolves are chunking away. They elect to do a ghost on the bottom. Not quite sure why they chose to do that, since they could have taken the werewolves and stopped damage. But the werewolves got in there. Our partner had heal, which is another great thing for your duo partner to have when you're playing wolves. And we get them in 2 minutes and 42 seconds. All right, so for the final match here of this video, I selected one that goes quite a bit long. This is right around the 7-minute mark. We have a partner who's playing an Essence deck. If you've seen my Navir is useless video that I released a few months ago, I am not a huge fan. I'm not really sold on the Essence decks. I thought it was a cool concept. I've definitely tried to make them good. I've got some wins over them, but they're just a little too slow on solos for me. In duos, if you do a pre-made duo and you have a partner who builds a deck that works well with your Essence deck, I think it's fine. It works out, but the Essence deck I don't think plays very nicely, at least the ways I've constructed it and seen it constructed. I don't believe it plays very nicely to random duos and stuff like that in solo-based games. It just feels a little too slow, and it doesn't feel like you have enough support for your team member all the time, because you don't want to overload on the little skeletons, and there's just not a lot of cheap stuff that does things. So I like to avoid the Essence deck, but this is again a 7-minute match because I'm mid-range. They're very high range as far as the mana. You can see on their hand right now, they've got Howling Moon, which is great, plays with our werewolves. So they've got some spirit, they have the ghost, they've got Navir, they've got the breath. It's just they've got a lot of stuff going on that's high mana. So, and unfortunately with me mid-rangey, if that happens to be a hand like this where they have quite a high threshold there in their mana, and I'm relatively up there too, 4, 5, 7, 5. It kind of hurts us, especially when they're utilizing their master ability to summon a whole bunch of skeletons, which are quickly just dispatched. It kind of sucks. But we both have Howling Moon, which is kind of cool. We both have Spirit Mancers, which is really nice. We both have Morelia's ability to give spirit out, which you can see us doing. We also have the ability to heal. Now they have a Morelia too. I haven't really been paying attention going over the commentary here if she's been utilizing her heal spell or not. And then of course Mordor, if you're not careful, he can resurrect some pretty nasty and annoying things. But they do have a pretty mid-range strategy. Okay, that Morelia used the skeletons. They've got a pretty what I would call average. They kind of have the toolboxy stuff all around in their builds. Not really too focused on one tribe or another tribe or that kind of stuff. They're kind of an all around just basic ladder deck that I've seen, which work really, really well. And in fact, you can check out the Grandmaster climb deck that I put out originally and then have revamped with the Sand Wars. Feels very much like one of those decks, which is a very, very good deck. And you can definitely do a lot of work with that. But we're already up to the 3-minute 20, 3-minute 30 mark up there on the timer. We're doing quite well with bridge control. We've almost got it up to a point where we've unlocked that 3rd tier. And our partner Morelia has the essence that she needs, so effectively we will have 3 dragons. Now with one of the more recent updates, Navir is considered a legendary minion on the board as well as in your hand, which means there can only be 1 Navir in play at any given time. So the olden days where you could have 2, 3, 4 Navirs out, I saw a video with 6. I don't even know how that happened, but in those instances you can't have that anymore, because now that our opponent has now that our partner has a Navir out on the battlefield, you can see in their hand right now at the 8 cost right there the ultimate ability of Morelia. It's got a red like demon skull on it, which if you hovered over it says, I don't know if it'll let me hover over it, but right there, Mythic Presence. You can only ever have 1 minion of mythic type summoned at a time. So we can only have 1 dragon at a time. The nice thing is we have an opportunity here to have a total of 3 dragons throughout the course of the match if we need it. So if my partner's dragon dies, I will have another one to go as well. So that's actually cool. This one actually might be my dragon now looking at my hand. Yeah, this actually I think is my dragon. And then they have the 2 dragons, one from their normal Navir spell and then one from their ultimate. So I do believe we'll probably see another dragon come down, but as you can see in this point, we've got a lot of spam over there in their area. There goes my dragon. Yep, definitely my dragon, because I would definitely have seen it pop up by now. There's a Howling Moon from our partner, and like I said, they have complete ability to throw another dragon, which I believe they do, if I remember right, especially with the timestamp at the top. We're closing in on the end, but we're not quite there yet. There it is. There's her dragon, and as you can see, the 10 mana normal spell Navir is also up in her hand as well, in case we need it. I can tell you, we're not going to need it. So we're seeing some stuff coming around on our opponent's side. Now, we have been utilizing the Morelia heal ability. So as you can see, it's been a very long game, going on 6 minutes now. And we just now dropped below 3,000 hit points. Now, we did drop below earlier, but we've been able to utilize the healing abilities of Morelia to top off our hit points. So that's not too bad. Now, they dropped their own dragon here. Like I said, we still have another dragon, ready in the wings if we need it. But they now have a dragon half health with stun guys and stuff like that. And they did some damage here. So, kind of scary for a moment here. Not, I don't think, a butt clench ability, but there's our third dragon just came down. Their dragon didn't take much health from the Howling Moon that dropped there, just because their dragon was already pretty close to half health. But we have Mana Frenzy now, and it's not guaranteed. I have lost under Mana Frenzy before. There's their second dragon down. So this would be a prime opportunity for us with Mana Frenzy to push hard in the bottom. Let those dragons duke it out at the top. Their dragons in their battlefield. So we've got plenty of time before that dragon gets over to us. We push the bottom hard, and we win in just under 7 minutes. So not a bad match, a little long. So guys, there is the Wolves deck. Again, I've made several alterations of this deck over my time. Some of the critical pieces I think are very important to have here. Spirit Mancer, and then a couple land units that will be good targets. I would say 3 at max, or 3 at minimum. If you want to get a little scary, drop to 1 of these and only do 2, and then fill in that spot there. But I like 3 with 2, and then I actually have a 4th dude here. But I like having 2 once bittens there, so I always have 1 up, and I can always turn something into a werewolf that's half health or below. Again, Howling Moon is another one that you could, if you wanted to keep it, you can keep it. You could also maybe get another 5-drop in there, or if you have another favorite high-end card that you would like to slide in there, that'll also work. But again, with any sort of deck here where we're talking about a lot of land creatures and we're turning them into werewolves, the spirit is where it's at. So I really think having Morelia here is definitely a good choice. Also gives you another high-end threat in Navir, dropping that dragon. But you could definitely slide in, if you wanted to, you could slide in the spirit vessels in there to add another spirit type of card. Or you can also throw in the Bone Mancers, if you want to throw that in, if you need to kill some more large groups instead of the twirly guy, the whirly twirly. Or you could throw in Nourish and use I believe it's called Nourish, right? Am I wrong on that? Am I wrong? Nope, Spirit Infusion. Nourish is this one. Nope, I'm also wrong there. Wow. I play too many card games. Spirit Infusion, you could also slide in here too if you want some more spirit. But I really like this deck. It's performed really well with me. Definitely has. I think it's right around like a 70+% win rate. You're not going to get that right off the bat. You kind of got to get a feeling for it. But again, that's in duos. I've not played this in any sort of solo content. So definitely a duos deck for me right now. Maybe we'll revamp it and make it a solo based one in the future. But guys, thank you very much for watching. If you like the video, please hit that like button. Please leave me a comment of any decks that you would like me to check out or try to build. If you have anything you would like to see, no matter how memey, as you saw with one of our last decks, no matter how memey, send it over. I will build it. You can also follow me on Twitter or tweet at me, Davram TV there. And if you really like the video, please do consider subscribing. Check out the Patreon at patreon.com/Davram Gaming. Guys, take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you next time in the arena. He's a twirly guy. Yeah.